I lost $13,000 trading GameStop. And the scariest thing about that is I don't even feel bad. Maybe it's a sign of more losses to come. Before I get into the reason on why I bought GameStop at what I already knew to be an outrageous price, I think it's important to give a thorough explanation of the whole Wall Street Bets versus hedge fund situation. I don't see a lot of people out there giving an explanation of this whole movement with GameStop. So GameStop stock started to get a lot of attention from Wall Street Bets near the end of 2020. Wall Street Bets is a subsection of Reddit or a subreddit where people post their outrageous gains and losses from their investments. There is a lot of name calling going around. There are a lot of memes and in general, just a lot of idiotic behavior going around. But once in a while, if you look hard enough, there are some smart people out there that do some really good analysis and they share that analysis on Wall Street Bets. From September to December of 2020, some of the members of Wall Street Bets released some analysis of the company. And at first it was just fundamental analysis of the stock price saying that, hey, this stock is priced at such a low level that it's basically priced for bankruptcy, but the balance sheet is still strong. They can pay their bills and the new console cycle is just around the corner. And then eventually the analysis looked at the short interest of the stock. At one point, the short interest was 136% of the outstanding shares, meaning that there were more stocks shorted compared to the actual number of outstanding shares. I didn't even know this was possible until I started looking into this GameStop situation. Anyways, this means that if there's any positive news coming out of the company, this would cause the shorts to cover and possibly cause a short squeeze, causing the stock to skyrocket. Meanwhile, at GameStop, there was a lot of good things happening within the company. Again, the console cycle was just beginning and they were investing heavily within their e-commerce business. They were seeing something like 200 to 300% year-over-year gains within their e-commerce segment. And additionally, Ryan Cohen, who is the ex-CEO and co-founder of Chewy, started to buy a ton of shares so that he could gain a seat on the board of directors. He also brought two of his buddies, so he was starting to get a lot of influence within the company. Ryan Cohen just has a really good reputation on Wall Street, and he's just known as a really great businessman. So with all these great things happening in the company, the stock saw a sharp rise in price by the end of 2020. In the beginning of 2020, they started off at around $5, and by the end of 2020, they ended at around $18. This is when Wall Street Bets starting to get a lot of attention. It went from having 800,000 subscribers at the beginning of 2020, and it went to 2 million subscribers about a year later in the middle of January 2021. And through this exponential growth, the GameStop trade became something completely different. What started off as just an investment idea turned into more of an uprising against the hedge funds. It became personal for a lot of people, and some of these people were kids during the 2008 financial crisis when they saw their families lose it all and they saw the very institutions that created the crash get bailed out. To them, this was a protest against a system that is rigged in favor of hedge funds and in particular short sellers. I want to read a couple of sentences from this open letter on Wall Street Bets that nicely summarizes what the movement is about. I was in my early teens during the '08 crisis. I vividly remember the enormous repercussions that the reckless actions of those on Wall Street had in my personal life and the lives of those close to me. He goes on to say, to Melvin Capital, you stand for everything that I hated during that time. You are a firm that makes money off exploiting a company and manipulating markets and media to your advantage. Your continued existence is a sharp reminder that the ones in charge of so much hardship in the '08 crisis were not punished. And I'm holding, this is personal for me, and millions of others. You can drop the price of GME after hours, $120, and I'm not going anywhere. You can pay for thousands of Reddit bots. I'm holding. You can get every mainstream media outlet to demonetize us. I don't care. I'm making this as painful as I can for you. To CNBC, you must realize that your short-term gains through promoting institutions' agenda is just that, short-term. Your staple audience will soon become too old to care, and the millions of us, not just at WallStreetBets, but every person affected by the '08 crash that's now paying attention to GME, are going to remember how you stuck up for the firms that ruined so many of us and tried to tear down the little guys. The reason why this guy and so many other people bought GameStop is to make a statement that short sellers have an unfair advantage, and they're right. Short sellers have this well-established system in order to short companies. They publish hit pieces and they pass them off as credible research. They influence the media and get them to publish articles that are at best half-truths, and they find people within the company to pay them in order to leak negative information that paint the company in a bad light. All these things drive the price of the stock down, and if the company is already struggling, they don't have the ability to access capital, which ultimately leads up to the company's bankruptcy. And if this all sounds like conspiracy theory shit, trust me, it's real. I've seen it firsthand with Tesla. So the people on WallStreetBets saw this happening with GameStop, so they were putting money into GameStop in order to make a stand against the short sellers. And at the end of January, things were getting crazy. So at the beginning of January, the stock was trading at $18. On January 20th, the stock started trading at $40. And by January 27th, the stock reached an all-time high of $483. It was crazy. It was all over the news. Elon Musk tweeted about it. And at the same time, the WallStreetBets subreddit went from 2 million members to 7 million members. On January 28th, this all came to a screeching halt when Robinhood and a bunch of other brokerages decided to limit the buying of GameStop. Obviously, with a bunch of people who can't buy and no limits on selling, the stock came plummeting down from an all-time high of $483 to $193. The next day, on January 29th, Friday, the movement came back strong and the stock ended at a price of $320. This, unfortunately, is when I get involved. I decided to take the weekend and look into exactly what this was all about. So I looked into WallStreetBets for the first time. I learned about their culture. I learned about the movement against the hedge funds. I saw the ridiculous growth rate of their member count. And I remember seeing the passion that some of their members had. They said that they weren't going to sell, and I believed them. So I thought to myself, man, there is something going on here. WallStreetBets has 8 million people. They're growing at 1 million members per day. By the end of February, they can have over 50 million members. There's only 50 million shares in the float of GameStop. There's 50 million members. By the end of February, they're going to control GameStop. And if they control GameStop stock, then the stock is worth whatever WallStreetBets says it is. And I wanted to get in before that happens. So that Monday, I buy 20 shares at $280. The day that I buy it, the stock price plunges to $115. But at that point, my conviction was higher than ever. So I decided that I was going to go big. The next day, I buy 100 more shares at $105. I buy 200 more shares at $100. About 10 minutes after I buy the 200 shares at $100, the stock plummets again and it goes to $75, where I buy 200 more shares at $75. Literally like 15 minutes later, the stock was trading at $150. So my average cost right now was at $98 per share. I had about 520 shares. So I could have just sold everything there and I would have pocketed $25,000 for that day. But I decided, why the fuck should I sell at this price when I think the price is going to go up significantly from here? So I decided I'm not going to sell anything until at least $300. Well, anyways, the stock price went back down to around $90 where it finished for the day. So for the day, I was down about $4,000. Over the next couple of days, there was very little volatility of the GameStop stock actually, and this was really surprising for me. At the same time, I saw that the growth rate at Wall Street Bets was slowing down significantly, but I was still pretty optimistic. So 8 million people is still a lot of people, but I know obviously not everybody on Wall Street Bets is going to be contributing to buying GameStop, but even like let's say 2 million people participate, that's still a lot of people. And with the stock price under $100, I thought that Wall Street Bet still had a reasonable chance of being able to take over the stock. So I was pretty confident that that was going to happen. But the next morning, the stock started to plunge again. I thought that I had the stomach for this, but it turned out that I didn't. So I literally didn't get sleep the night before. And at 7 a.m., I was laying on bed. I saw the stock plummeting. And I just decided, like, I can't get any sleep. I have to sell in order to just keep my sanity. So I got up. I sold about a fourth of my position. I don't remember the exact dollar amount I sold it for, but it was somewhere in the 80s. So after I sold it, around 7:30, I hopped back into the bed and I got some sleep. I woke up after hours after the stock stopped trading and ended the day at $53. So at this point, I was down $18,000. That night, I checked Wall Street Bets and it was chaos. There was no longer a unified front. That was still very entertaining though. There was also a moderator infighting. That one of the moderators, the top moderator that ran everything, he got kicked out of the Wall Street Bets forum, and this new moderator came in who everybody hated. So it was just utter chaos. So I thought to myself, maybe my original analysis is wrong. Maybe there's not enough people here to start this movement. So I decided to look at the most popular posts on Wall Street Bets. And even the most popular posts had at most 200,000 upvotes. So maybe there isn't really 2 million people that are involved in this movement. Say at most maybe 200,000 or maybe 400,000 at most are involved in this movement. With 400,000 people, let's say each person held an average of 20 shares, that's only 8 million shares that Wall Street Bets might control right now. So that's not enough people to control the GameStop stock. I also saw that the growth rate was only going up at about 50,000 new members per day, which was a lot lower than what I predicted. I thought it was going to be growing at more like 1 million members per day. So I thought the revolution is over, at least for now. So I decided that the next day I would sell the remainder of my stock. So that's what I did. The next day I sold at somewhere around the 60s, and I calculate my average cost of selling at about $73. So that means that I lost a total of around $13,000. I still have 10 shares though, so there's still hope that I can break even. Maybe when this video releases on Monday, the stock price will go up by $13,000 or $1,300 and I will break even. But I would still feel terrible if that happened. Do I regret putting money into GameStop? No, not really. I knew there was a really good chance of me losing money. I thought my original analysis was fine. I was wrong, but that's okay. I can't be right all the time. I actually do consider myself pretty lucky because I was willing to put money in the 200s, but when I decided to commit, the price had fallen 50%, so I got in at much lower than I thought I would. And when I sold, there was a small rally, so I was able to recoup some of my costs when I sold. So yeah, I could have lost a lot more. Besides, during this whole situation, I was able to do some analysis on GameStop. So maybe I'll be able to recoup some of my losses through my analysis if my analysis is correct. I plan to be doing some videos, or at least one video on the analysis of GameStop. So if you want to see that video, then subscribe to my channel. But other than that, whether you're a subscriber or not, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Omelet, can you get out of my shop, please? Please? Go in the basket. Go in the basket. Thank you.